know, as most of y'all may know, as most of y'all may know, um, there was a
As most of y'all may
suicide
know,
feedback. There was a murder suicide that went on, and what happened was there was a guy named Rajay Black who was accused of abusing his children and filing for custody. Upon filing for custody with his ex-wife, he had numerous protective orders against him, and um, he had a current girlfriend who was pregnant, who was accusing him of also being abusive. So he took to Facebook Live, and at this point, he had shot the girlfriend who was pregnant, and he was explaining himself before walking into the house and the shooting his ex-girlfriend. Now, what we want to talk about today is um support group for men. We want to find out, like, why somebody would do that. How does somebody reach to that point? And Is and how is it having forums, is it necessary for men to be able to talk? Is that your last resort? Um, and how do we resolve the issues? So what I want to do before we get into the questions is I want to show you the video of what this young gentleman did, and then we can get into the talk. Now, this is our hour talk. We're going to be doing this hourly talk every third Thursday of the month for an hour. Um, we're gonna try for 7 o'clock. Usually at 8 o'clock, we'll be on here though. And we're gonna talk about some things that's affecting the men in the community and causing them to do domestic violence. Not only domestic violence, but actually murdering their significant other, and in most cases committing suicide. How do we prevent that? Was this a foreseeable thing? How do we come back from making an irrational decision to a rational decision? So Sean, if you can show that video, that would be very helpful.
Give me one more minute. I'm still working. Give me 1 minute.
No problem. Um, is anyone here in the forum familiar with what I'm talking about? All right. So just hindsight, let me read off exactly what was going on in this case. Um, so there the guy the person who committed the act, right? Woman, okay, so it reads woman killed by ex-husband in Colombia. Hold on. So woman killed by ex-husband in Colombia, murder suicide, was denied protective orders. So this young gentleman, right, was on Facebook Live in front of his ex-girlfriend house because he was stressed. Now, this gentleman was also, I believe, an anesthesiologist. And he not only was he an anesthesiologist, he was working in a hospital at the time. So he had a career, somebody that, is prominent in our community. And with that being said, it was the judge denied each protective order that the ex-girlfriend put out. I believe put out at least 4 protective orders and one before the incident happened. So at the case is, what I'm saying, why was these protective orders denied? which is still what's being looked into. And what can we do to help men who are in this position? Are you ready with the stream, Sean?
I'm ready.
All right, go ahead.
My screen should be being shared right now.
All right, good.
Can you turn it up?
Yep.
Turn the volume up.
I've been going through having my ex-wife say I molested my children and all kinds of craziness. Been fighting for custody for 3 years. So you know, shit has been real crazy. What's up, Oliver? You know about this. Going through it with my ex-wife, blah blah blah. So started dating somebody new, and she got pregnant, and we got in a fight. First thing she does, threatening that she's going to do the same thing. You're never going to see your kids, blah blah blah. It's the holidays, man. I don't have no family, nothing. Anyway, I just did something crazy, man. I just shot my ex-girlfriend in the head, yo. Felt like a dream. Like I never thought I would be that guy. Um, I can't go to prison, so the person that really started my depression and all of this is my ex-wife. So she next, and then I'm going to do myself too. But I just wanted to say this to people: don't play with people's emotions, man. Don't lie on these men. Oh, here's my ex-wife right here.
Okay, so as you can see, right, he was explaining himself, right? So this man, he's a 44-year-old nurse, anesthetist, I guess anesthesiologist, that's what you would say. And um he's been working in two hospitals. He's been working for the Department of Veterans, and he's been working for the University of Maryland. He got fired from the University of Maryland, disclosing that I guess there was a case that he had, not for the incident that went on between him and his ex-girl, but he was fired for whistleblowing on a doctor who was hiding drugs in his locker, right? So that was an unfortunate situation. So he seemed to be an honest, upright person. Um, the young lady that tragically lost her life, she was 41 years old, and before he entered into the house to shoot her, his two kids, who he had two girls, the two girls was in the car at the time of the murder, so they were right there. Now, what I wanted to create this forum is to get like your gentleman's perspective on the incident and what's going on and how you feel about what happened, and how can we do better as men to not to get to this point where now that the children, they have no mother and father. You know what I'm saying? And they were actually there when their mother was taken out. Unfortunately, the other ex-girlfriend, she was pregnant. So her baby didn't get a chance to be born, which is so sad. Now, you know what I'm saying? I don't know. To me, there's nothing that justifies his actions and what he did. But I guess from speaking from a perspective of trying to understand how a person would get to this point, is there anybody that, you know what I'm saying, would like to share or talk about these type of situation, or how they felt about what they just saw? You gotta open your mic. You gotta open your mic, Carl.
Was he cheating on his wife?
No, so he actually was not cheating on his wife. So it wasn't his wife, it was his girlfriend. So his girlfriend, whose name is Tara LeBang, who's 41, who is deceased now. And when he shot himself, he shot his girl. She was his ex-girlfriend, right? She was actually working with him at the hospital in the Department of Veterans. Okay, so now he's upset at her because they've been fighting for custody battle over the children for a long time. Not only been fighting for custody battle, but she's been putting in protective orders saying that he's abusive, he has a gun, he's suicidal, and he has threatened her. So that's already been established. But beyond that, right? What I want to do is I want to discuss, like, are there situations that can get a person so upset that they will feel like they would want to do something like this? And how we as men feel about things going on in the community like this, because right now domestic violence is at an all-time high, especially during the pandemic, right? And there's been a lot of cases growing where there's murder, suicide, and domestic violence cases. Now, I don't know about you, but there's a lot of situations where I see that men find it hard to detach from relationships. They find it hard to detach from relationships. They find it hard to leave the person that they left alone, even when they find somebody else, right? Now, have anybody has had an experience where they seen like abusive men who wouldn't leave the girl alone, or you know what I'm saying? What are your thoughts on this? Carl?
I mean, there's so many different factors that you can probably look at. His childhood. I don't know. There's no background. We don't have a lot of information on his background. But like you said, there's nothing that justifies taking it to the extreme way he did. But I mean, the bottom line is he'd have to get some kind of help. But I'm saying I don't know the whole background of the young man.
I mean, okay, so not even looking at the background of the young man, I'm just saying, taking it as face value. You're looking, so this is apparently this is a man under a lot of pressure.
Right.
Okay, so let's establish that. Let's establish a criteria. This is a man under a lot of pressure. He's an anesthesiologist. He's working in 2 hospitals. He recently got fired from one for doing a whistleblowing on a doctor. And he had to leave to go to New York to do the COVID and help the patients up there to maintain his insurance and help support his family. So again, he's under a lot of pressure. He's moving from location to location. He's not having a great relationship with his ex-girlfriend. He has 2 girls. He has 2 girls. Now, a custody battle with 2 girls. Apparently, he probably has to pay child support, right? Does this constitute somebody for being upset? It's the holidays. Apparently, he's alone because the current girlfriend he has, or I guess I can't say it's child abuse in his case, but he said the situations are the same, but the situations couldn't be the same because at the end of the day, the baby didn't born yet. So it had to be that she figured him to be abusive, or he didn't like the way he was treating her, or something he was doing that made her want to leave him. That's a fact. Okay. So now, him being alone, faced with all these consequences, he took to the violent measure to end his family life. Now, what I'm trying to say is, if you believe is something in his childhood, what in his childhood could cause something like that? Just elaborate. Like, what do you think?
Unresolved anger.
So unresolved anger. So
It could be unresolved ego. A lot of times men have an ego, and the ego is so big, it's hard, like you said, to let go. And I don't want you with nobody else because just their ego was involved. That could be one of the things
right.
too.
So there's even songs like if loving me is wrong, I don't want to love nobody else. If loving you is wrong, I don't want to love nobody else. Um, there's people like if I know there's a saying, if you're not for me, you're not for nobody else.
Right.
Right. Okay. So do you consider these statements as red flags or somebody that's caring for somebody?
Well, I think there's always red flags. I think the question is, are you aware of them?
I mean, well, those statements, do you find those statements to be red flags, and why?
But loving you, I don't loving you. If loving you is wrong, I don't want to be right.
Yeah, okay, so here go, right? The reason why those statements is wrong, is because it doesn't express love, it express ownership.
Right.
So when you own something, you can abuse it, right? When you love somebody, you can always let them go and hold. See, so there was a beautiful statement that somebody made. The way to love somebody is not to hold them, but it's to let them go and let it come back to you. You understand what I'm saying? Give the person the freedom to make a choice and to come back, right? And so Gamal, what do you think? Do you think that there's life after a breakup? Do you think after she did this to him that it can work, or what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a very relevant point. Um, without necessarily, making any assumptions about this situation, because this is obviously a very extreme one. But I think everyone could relate to breaking up. I think we've all had relationships that didn't work out for one reason or the other, and then it's like, what's next? What happens after that? And I think there's definitely a lot of emotions that happen, depending on what the breakup is. You know what? And I realize, like, a lot of times, yes, it depends on the breakup, but I think at the end of the day, it's all about the person, right? Like, so it's like, no matter what the issue is or what the problem is, it's all about how you handle the problem. So this is obviously an extreme situation where somebody decides to kill someone else, to deal with the problem or the situation. But I feel like we all have different ways of coping with it. And I think this is like an example of just basically being able to understand, like, how do I cope with failures, disappointments, breakups, like just different challenges, like just different things that we face in life. How do I deal with that? How do I move on? How do I stay positive? How do I stay hopeful? How do I not be fearful? How do I not see this as being the end of the world? Like, so it's like, I feel like we've all been through, breakups. And I think what we want to do as men is to be able to work on ourselves after that. So it's not so much about, like, the relationship. Actually, to me, when you break up, it actually exposes, what I've learned is that it exposes more about yourself than the other person. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, like, what's in you probably showed up. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
if you understand what I'm saying, like again, like it's hard to go into specifics about this specific situation, so I'll just stick to myself. You know what I mean? Like you know what I mean? Like, I think in my relationships, I've seen that when I look back at it, and I've done that recently, like just looking back at all my relationships, and I realized, like, there's a pattern about how things ended and how I handled it. And so I realized, like, it has, and these are different people, right? So it's like, when you see, a breakup happens, it could be for different reasons or the same reason. You know, how you cope with that or deal with that after that breakup, you start seeing a pattern. And so you start learning about yourself, like how you deal with certain things. And I think those are the things that you want to address. Like, you want to be able to address those shortcomings or whatever it is, you know what I mean? But I think what's important is to, like, be able to take that time to, like, realize that. So I'm giving I'm talking about a lot of different things, but what I want to bring home is that I think the worst thing to do is to make this situation about the other person. You know what I'm saying? Now, that's not easy to do, because obviously what he did was, and because I heard it a little bit, was that he attributed, like, I killed my ex-girlfriend because of my ex-wife. You know what I'm saying? Like, he made, like, this connection, like, I
Yeah.
really, you know what I'm saying? Like because of what my ex-wife did to me, I killed my ex-girlfriend. And we all know that, again, without knowing all the specific situations, just generally speaking, nobody made you kill anybody, right? Like she didn't hold the gun, she didn't put the gun in your hand, pull the trigger. You did that. You made that choice. You know what I'm saying? So I realized, like, at the end of the day, it's not about the other person. It's about you. You got to take that time after that breakup to learn about yourself, see how you handle certain situations. Was that right? Was that wrong? Sometimes you could be right. Sometimes you could be wrong, but it's important to do that investigation to like really understand that so that you can really heal from that process so that when you go into another relationship, again, that could have happened in this situation, but I'm not sure. Because what ends up happening is that if you don't heal from one breakup, you bring that hurt to the next relationship. And then it ends again the same way or similarly. You know what I mean? And so I just think it's important. A lot of times as men, when you talk about sayings, like how they say, you know, the quickest way to get over a relationship is being over, you know what I mean, getting on top. Like basically jump into bed with somebody else to get over who you left. You know what I'm saying? Like that's like a very common thing that people do. And I think that what I've learned from experience is that it's important to take that time to like really heal, because what you end up doing is just bringing that hurt into that same relationship, and now you just hurting more people, digging yourself into a deeper hole. You know what I'm saying? And then now it can cause you to do something, you know, drastic. I mean, this is like when I was hearing, like when you told me about the story, is one thing to like see the person on live talking about it. Like that's so sad, man. And to know that there's kids involved, like, oh man, I can't even, like, my heart just goes out to those families, man. That is like, that's like, again, that's such an extreme situation. I think it's a good cautionary tale to realize like what happens when you don't treat your trauma. You know what I'm saying? Like the pain that you can inflict on yourself and others. You know what I mean? And not for nothing, we could all look at this and be like, oh wow, that's crazy. But you know, honestly, that could be anybody. That could be anybody that's if they push to the edge. And again, as men, like one of the easiest things, and Tone, thanks, because you send me a lot of stuff that make me reflect. Like you like anger is a mask. Anger is a mask for sadness. Anger is a mask for fear. Anger is a mask for a lot of different things. So as men, I think we're so prone to like go to anger because that's easy. Like if I'm, you know what I mean? Like I feel hurt, it's easy. Let me just break something. Let me shoot something. Let me, you know what I'm saying? Let me get this, because anger allows you to get energy out, obviously, most times in a destructive way, but it just allows you to get whatever you're feeling out. You know what I'm saying? And that's what you want. But at the end of the day, it's just masking something else. You're really sad. You're really fearful. You're really insecure. You're really in shame. You know what I'm saying? Like it's more things that you're actually feeling that is just important to uncover.
Oh, you made a lot of great points. One thing I would like to reflect before I even go to the next question is when you do an incident like that, the most important people here is your kids. And I just want to stress that. So at the end of the day, you got to think about their future. And no matter at what point they drive you to, at what point a person drives you to, even the anger. He had his children sitting in there. He must have looked at them. They was crying in the car. At some point, that should have stopped them to make him realize that this is not the pathway to go, right? So for me, looking at that, for me looking at that point, I realized that he was a selfish person. So if you're selfish in one thing, you're selfish in many things, right? And there's nothing worse than being with a selfish partner because they don't look at your emotions all the time. They're always dependent on you helping their emotions, right? So that's what I gathered from what he did, right? Because for me, even if you had drove me to that point, because there's points where a person can drive you to make you want to get angry, right? We all get angry in relationships, and we all get to the point where we want to swing, or you want to act out. But at some point, rationality has to stick in and said, this is not where I want to go with this because of the situation. We have to be able to have an outlet or be able to have something where we can have the pause moment to realize where it's going. That's why sometimes you don't even entertain certain things, because a lot of, I could see in his life, he had a lot of trigger moments. And what I call trigger moments is he had a lot of moments where he was either abused, he was threatened, and that supplied his great anger, because it takes great anger. He, you know, it's not even that is a person that he had great anger because he was so calm when he did it, right? Usually a person at that point, they're breathing, their shoulders torn, they going through, they're crying, they're all emotional. He was non really emotional. He just said, yeah, you know what it is. And then so he had already made up his mind. There was no stopping him. One. Two, when he got to that point, that means that his level of anger was so much that it was just turned into action. It wasn't even turned into outlook rage, right? So those are the most dangerous people, because you don't even know what they're apt to do, because you don't, the sign of their anger, you don't really see it. You only see it when they act and do what they do, which is very dangerous. So those are what I call the silent deadly people, right? So that's the point. That's at the point where that you could see that that was an abused person. He didn't need to be in a relationship at the time. What he needed to do, if he left his ex-girlfriend and was going through all of that, he needed some time to recuperate. See, so you and look at it. So let me tell you, you can only get into a level of relationship as the level of where you're at. You understand what I'm saying? A lot of people meet the people where they're at. So if you meet an abusive person or you meet something, there's some experience in your life that resonates with what you're living with, right? And so they have a thing that we call compulsive repetition, right? So compulsive repetition is if you're living with an abusive father, you're living with an abusive parent, and they're always yelling at you all the time, and you're living in this abusive relationship. When you grow up, right? Because your first 6 years is what they call the formative years. When you grow up and when you grow up and you actually are old enough to get into a relationship, you become drawn to that sort of environment. It doesn't matter where you at. You could even take them even into another country, another state. They're always going to be drawn to those type of people because that's what they're familiar with. So before you even get into a relationship, coming from an abusive background, you always need time to heal, tell yourself it's okay, and seek to do better. You understand what I'm saying? So you can tell from the two relationships that he's had, if it came out the same result, that means that there's a pattern. The pattern is he's looking at a sort of a person that may be that I'm sure without a doubt that those ladies was probably aggressive, that triggered his emotions, but those was the things that he was looking for because that's what he was comfortable with. You understand what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, that's what led him into those relationships. So now he has to understand why he look. So like I said, you can only date to the level of your own thinking and your own understanding or your own emotions, right? So when we constantly have a slew of bad relationships, it's time to do some self-reflecting, because it's not the people that you're getting into the relationship, it's you that's getting into the relationship with those kind of people, if that makes sense, right? Okay, now, Sean, we haven't heard from you. What do you think about the things we said today?
I think what Gamal said hit the nail right on the head. Um, in my opinion, though, at the same time, like I said, I'm sitting back and I've seen many people going through divorces and separations, and I see Chris is on. Like you said, we have a friend now whose cousin is going through a similar thing. That after 10 years, he's in the military. On the 10th year anniversary of him being in the military, the wife filed for a divorce because she knew she can get 50% of his pension in the 10th year, and that really broke him up. So, and like I said, he was really hurt. And so when like I said, what Gamal is saying is, as you come out these relationships, you have to self-analyze. What I'm looking at also at the same time is when we go to court, what is the judge's role? Because like I said, if this guy has a situation where he went to court with his wife and the judge says, oh, well, we're going to keep the child from you because of abuse or whatever like that. I just want to get the understanding is there an option to say, okay, let's take this to counsel. If she says she's accusing you of this, it's before I rule. I need you two to go to counsel. I can find out what is your background, what is your character, because counselors do a great job of pulling that information out of an individual. And so even if it was shown that he does have an issue, then like Gamal said, he should have had the opportunity to fix his issue, maybe step back from relationships and say, okay, I have to fix me. I need counseling. Because it's easy to point the finger at him and saying, oh, he had this issue, he had that wrong with it. But was he ever given the opportunity to get help? I think in a lot of these times, like by us doing this right now, there's opportunities for people to get help and to get an understanding of how we can change and what needs to be done in our own lives. Because it takes a lot for somebody to get to the point where he understands he has to change. So in this situation, I'm wondering, because like I know, like people I know have gone through divorce, the judge never put out an option of getting counsel or saying, okay, she's accusing you of this, you're saying that. How about we go to counseling to help me before I render a verdict or render a judgment? All the people I know that have been in divorces is just, oh, this is it. This is what she's getting 50%, and that's it. And you're not getting custody. You can't see your child or whatever the arrangement is. So I think as men, I think that we need to work towards, even if it has to be with working in the legal system of, okay, before judges render verdicts on what happens to the money, what happens to the relationship, can we get some counseling first? Has the couple been through counseling? What does the counselor say? What does the psychiatrist say? Because I think a lot of times opportunities for help is missed when we go through the court system. Because like I said, these men are left. I mean, it's easy to say he shouldn't have done that, but sometimes the desperation and me being in a relationship, it hurts. It hurts when you lose everything. You wake up one day, you have no family now, you have no house, you got to start over. That hurts. That's crippling. That's crippling. So it's not.
So could I ask you a question? Hold up. Mm-hmm. I like what you said, but do you know that going into a relationship is a risk?
Right.
So when you sign up for that, you know that you could lose everything, right? So
but that's what I'm saying is now like I said, the system, the court system, the idea of the court system was set up 100 years ago. And 100 years ago, they didn't have women going to work full time. They didn't have women bringing home more money than men. 100 years ago, it was the men that was the sole provider. So that's why now you have precedents in the legal system that, okay, we break up, she's going to get alimony immediately. You have to really get a really good lawyer in order for you you don't have to pay alimony. Or for you to want to get the children. You have to have a spectacular lawyer for that to happen. But right now, the precedence is she's going to get it. Even if she's the breadwinner, she's going to get favor. So what I'm saying is we need to, as men, work towards or pass legislation to get into the system to change the way that they're rendering these verdicts. There has to be more to the story. Because like you said, because at the end of the day, this is crippling men. I mean, it's easy to say, yeah, we need to work on our relationships and things like that, but we're seeing more and more of these situations coming up where men are crippled by this. So like I said, I agree with everything you said and what Gamal said, but at the same time, I think we need to add, or as men work or start some kind of motion where we go back into the legal system and say, hey, listen, this needs to change.
So you saying, so hold up, I just want to talk to you for a minute. So you saying, my understanding that the men are not getting a fair shake in the court system, and that's causing a lot of rage within the men.
Exactly.
And that's what's causing a lot of them to want to attack also.
Right.
Exactly.
I mean, if you think about somebody purposely planning after being married 10 years and now they're going to take half your pension, I'll have to go to court for that.
Exactly.
That's purposely done.
Exactly. And this is a pattern that I've known 3 people now where this has happened to. And if I know 3, I mean, I'm sure there's a pattern that can be shown.
Okay, so at the end of the day, if a person lives with you over 20 years and they're not working and they take care of you, right? You don't think that they're entitled to some of your pension?
Oh no, yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Okay.
But there's also situations where this is purposely done. When, like I said, there's going to be people or individuals, whether it be women or men, it could go both ways, where they're saying, okay, I don't have much. I'm coming from an environment where I don't have much. This is my meal ticket. I mean, that's why they have prenuptial agreements, because this happens. But the problem is, at the same time, is these systems, and let's, for example, is these, well, the military, for example, when they make these declarations that she's entitled to, or he's entitled to, is this is this actually being ironed out? Is this actually being investigated? Are resources put into the fact that, okay, let's examine this relationship?
Well, it wouldn't be investigated, Sean, for one reason. That's up to counsel to do. And
thank you. That's my question.
That's up for
That's why I
counsel
think
to
there's
do
a
and bring it to
problem.
the judge, right? So it's all on what they call effective counseling. You have to have a lawyer that understands these things.
Exactly. And that's what I think that's a problem.
Right. So, you know what I'm saying? It's your counsel who should be suggesting, that they get help. A lot of times I've seen in court cases that they offer marriage counseling before they actually get to that divorce stage, or they delay the divorce process. Maybe like a couple months to make sure that this is what the couple wants to do. Now, I'm not saying there's wrong on both sides of the fence, right? Okay, but my thing is, should our anger take us to the point where that we get so angry that we want to attack?
No,
there's no justification for it.
Yeah, there's never.
All right. So, I mean, I've seen cases, you know what I'm saying? Because, I used to going to the courts a lot for my job. I used to go into the courts. There was a domestic violence case. I went into the DV part. We call it DV part. And I went into the DV part, and there was a gentleman who had violated the order of protection 27 times, right? This was his wife. He violated the order of protection 27 times. So, as you know, it's 6 months for each violation. So they gave him a deal, 5 years. So I wonder how much years was actually, because he said it was a deal, 5 years. I don't think 5 years is a deal, but 5 years, he got 5 years, right? So it was on the table, and it was right before lunch, right? I don't know if you ever been in the court system. Right before lunch, everybody wants to go to lunch. They don't want no delays, right? So what happens is the man says, I love this woman. He doesn't want to sign the paper. You understand? So the judge is like, you need to sign the paper so we can go to lunch. They not looking at his actions or what's going on. All they care about is he needs to sign in the next 3 minutes so they can make their 12 o'clock lunch. So the counsel drags him over. They speak to him privately, and I see that they push it and he's signing to go into he said, but I want to see this woman again. So now, after the 5 years, what is he going to go do? He's going to go see the woman again. Now, these are major things that happens in the court system. The court system, I don't really think deals with domestic violence cases and child custody cases very fairly. I think a lot of the men get treated very unfairly when it comes to paying custody battles and stuff like that. Granted, but I don't think people realize that it's a risk you take when you have a baby with a person whom you're not sure about. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of times we get involved in long-term relationships for all the wrong reasons, but the right reason. You understand what I'm saying? And so when we end up in a relationship for all the wrong reasons, the outcomes are tragic. The outcomes are things like this. I know a person right now who had a child with a young with a lady, and he didn't have a relationship with her, but they had a child together, and he had two children, and he's making over 60,000 a year and can't afford to pay rent, and is forced to live with a roommate in order to have a place to live. It's a very true story. And he had to live like that till they came of age for them to stay on their own. And then after the children grew up, they didn't like him and they hated him. And they won't speak to him. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, there's a lot of perspectives that you got to look at when you get involved in a relationship, right?
And I think,
Go ahead.
but and if we have to be aware that there's always comes some kind of sign, something to let you know the person, something is wrong.
Agreed.
The question is, we don't recognize it.
Okay, so I know even a lot of people, they see the signs, and a lot of people warn them before you even go in.
Right, and they ignore it. Right.
I seen a lot of, you shouldn't do this, or they say, look, I seen her with somebody else,
right,
and they still do it. You know what I'm saying? They still do it. They don't listen. So
right.
At the end of the day, you know what I mean? What I think needs to happen is we need to find a way to be able to detach and mitigate our losses. A lot of times you can't look at, okay, so material things is going to come and go, but a life is something that you can never get back. And is where you value it at. You can't let your anger get so bad that you attack, and then what do your children do? Right? Hold on. I don't want to be Coach Carter, you know, our esteemed person, our guest today. Would you like to say, would you like to add to this? Would you like, are you familiar with the I know you came in kind of late. Are you familiar with the situation of the live stream? And
Yeah.
okay.
How you do? Good evening, gentlemen. How you doing, brothers?
All right.
All right. First of all, thanks you guys for having us, and I kind of say had the I guess the advantage of listening to all you guys talk about this here. But if I may share a couple my perspective on this here, I think that we're all right, from our own point of view. Relationships, finances are being pushed, and also being seeing things from the abused side, and the repercussions it has on the family factor. For those who don't know me, I'm a fitness and wellness coach, and I get the great pleasure and curse of going into somebody's home where whether you are white, black, Asian, Hispanic, when you're going through something, whatever you show on the outside, when you go into your house, I'm there inside house with you. And it's a different thing. I work you out, we work out. And once that barrier fatigue has hit you, you now want to start talking and be your real self. So if you racist, when you with me, you really racist. If you sexist, then you sexist. And if you crazy, then you really crazy. So I get to see it on the level, on that microcosm level, and go, wow, I never knew that's why you thought, or what you thought about somebody else or your wife and so forth. And I get the great pleasure and courage of also being in a home, and you get to see the relationship side. Like I'm the piece of furniture that they can have that argument around or that discussion around. When the husband is like, he's saying one thing, he's trying to take it. And the wife might be there, and I'm again across the board, might be saying, pardon my language, he ain't shit. He's at this. He's bad in bed. I hate him. I can't stand him. And that's me for an hour. I can't imagine the rest of that person hears it. And I could also be there when I see the guy is like screaming at his wife in front of his kids and her mother. And she's just like trying to keep peace because she doesn't want to make a big scene. And I'm there. I'm like, dude, that's your wife. What are you doing? And a couple of things that I, wanted to touch on that might add not only perspective, but I try to work from a solution base. Like, we're all trying to figure out how can we prevent this here. One of the things I know is that when I'm in the gym, I can work out. All you guys, we all could be in the gym. We all know how this goes. Brothers would rather we all talk about self and introspection and doing things, but I've noticed that I could be in the gym with a guy working out, and before he goes to the doctor, he gonna tell me, "I mean, I'm having a pain in my shoulder. I got a pain in my stomach. Oh, my chest was acting up." I'm like, "You ain't go to the doctor yet?" Nah, nah. What do you think it is? It's like, I think it's time to take your ass to the doctor. You being stupid. What you doing? And it's something when you say recognizing it, even if there's nothing wrong with you. An older guy once told me the fact that you can go to a professional and they can recognize that, you know what, this is happening to you now. We got a base point to see what's starting right now, so that when it gets worse, we know when it started. So everybody's not guesstimating, oh, you got a heart failure now. When do you have a heart problem? Well, I was having heart problems 10 years ago. Who you told? My boy. Where your boy at? Florida. Nobody know how that works. You know, we take better care of our cars and our houses than we do on our own selves. So, if your car needs oil change, go to the mechanic. You don't take it to your boy to get an oil change or transmission done. You take it to the shop to get it fixed. If you got electrical problem, same thing. You don't call a plumber to fix electricity problem. So you can't go to the court system and say, okay, we need a court system to fix a counseling problem. Like, that's not gonna work. Fundamentally flawed all the way around. So how do we now work on this here? So I saw a couple of things that work, and it kind of the best way I can kind of give a paint the framework of it is, if you think about it, we all know somebody that for some reason or another, they always manage to have a nice car but no money. And you go, how you do that? Or go on vacation. And it's like, how you go on vacation to wherever and you broke, Or they do get the hot wife or the hot husband. And it's like, wait a minute, you got no job, you got no ambition. How did you end up with a person like that? But somehow they always put themselves in the right position to do stuff. And I always says, no, good luck is basically when preparation meets opportunity. So what we need now, we're talking about all the bad luck that happens from all these situations. Let's look at the preparation here. And a better example would be my niece dated a guy. My niece is about Charlotte's my niece. She's in her 30s. And the guy she was dating is about our age. And they got pregnant. He didn't want the kid. She still was in love with him. And he had several wives and girlfriends before that, more kids, total of 5 kids. When they're breaking up, she's very heartbroken. She's like, well, I thought this guy was the one. I knew he wasn't, but I didn't intervene. So do your thing. Your relationship, long as he's not hurting you, long as he's not physically hurting you, you're good to go. And then when she came back and she told me recently, he said to her, you know, do you even love yourself? And she said, huh, I guess I don't. And I was like, what the hell you mean? I raised you. Sean was there. We raised, like, you, of course you love yourself. But then it dawned on me, maybe she does love herself, but she doesn't know how to love herself. Because when I was a young man, nobody taught me how to love myself. So when you think about that constant circle of life going on there, now it's more than just saying, if you ask somebody, average person, okay, how things, what's God is going? Oh, I'm good. My family's good. I got a job is good. Stop right there. But are your finances good? Is your health good? You know, is your social life good? You have your friends around you good? Like, all those boxes matter. And in a relationship, where there's one thing, if someone bases their, obviously this guy had a good profession. So a part of his identity of who he was as a man was his job and his finances and his family. This man, basically, we're looking at it as he lashed out when actually he struck back, because the woman in the relationship basically was like, you know what? I know I hurt you. I'm gonna take your family. I'm gonna take your money, and your job is already in misery. I'll make your job hard for you too. So it was like she was basically killing him one by one. All the boxes he had checked, she was just taking it away. So now, how do we stop that? We have to teach both sides, both the men and the women, at an age. Listen, self love. Let's look at all these boxes that have to be checked. Are you checking these boxes for yourself? Because action will always beat reaction. If you wait till after you break up in a relationship, it's already too late. The cars didn't crash. Why fix it? You know, and quite frankly, what do you do with a car you get fixed? You just fix it. I'm just going to drive it as I don't care no more. And then you try to sell it to somebody else who will give you money for a broke down car, you know, that you crashed and wrecked already. And if you wreck it again, I don't care. I wrecked it before. I'm going to keep driving it. And you drive the car till the wheels fall off. And that's basically what's happening. And so if we can get more proactive in saying, well, look, here are some boxes that have to be checked. So for example, finances. Why does it have to be? Because prenups and counseling and money, it should be simple. Before we go on a relationship, like you said, here's an agreement. This money is ours for our family, but this is mine and you can't touch it. And this is yours, you can't touch it. The wealthy do it all the time because you never know who's going to come into money. You know, I've watched some of my successful clients um, get remarried, and the wives are like, "Wait a minute, if you die, I get nothing." Because the husband, yeah, I just met you, I love you, I'll take care of you while I'm alive, but when I'm dead, all it goes to my kids. And the wives would be angry, like, "Wait a minute, what about me? What do I get out of this here?" And now they start fighting, even as older adults, older than us. So you think about that. That's a man that's saying, "I work for this money. It's my money. You can't take it. This identity. This is how I identify myself." So it doesn't have to be that aggressive. It can be, all right, before you guys get married, let's talk finances. You guys should have separate accounts for yourselves and one for your family. And one that, you know what, even if you leave, that's your money, that's her money. So this way, you know what, nobody feels like, you know what, hey, I'm just throwing solutions out here to be proactive. It could be more added to that. But if it's discussed up front, now it's not like, oh, well, we're going after this. It's like, you know what? I signed this contract with this man. I'm taking the risk that we're going to build a life together, but that's his money he came in this shit with, or that he's put in that account for him and himself. This is my money. He can't touch it because it happens. I've seen women that the same exact thing happens to where the guy will say, I've watched this happen several times, where the guy will be like, okay, you know what? You want to do that to me? I got you, no problem. Go to the police station, make friends with the cops, have a buddy cop on the force. When they come to exchange the kids, file an order of restraint, get her arrested, or say she's taking the kids to Florida out of state against court order. She can't do that without my permission. She get arrested, then he files for custody because now for while she's in jail, he has custody of the kids for that one more time, then turn around, sue her for child support and back child support and clean out her account and leave her with nothing. And as a woman, you know, she's like, wait a minute, I can't go, how am I going to climb the ladder? I can't climb the ladder like how you did. And now she's stuck with nothing. And she's stuck paying him child support. And I've seen that happen. Again, the court system can't regulate that. So being proactive, maybe we have to sit down with our young people and say, look, however, before you get married, let's talk your finances. Let's talk your spirituality. Let's talk your sexuality. Go through those boxes and check them off and teach the kids this stuff at an early age that they can start feeling comfortable having a conversation about it. Because if you don't know self-love in your as you get older, if you're not learning how to self-love yourself, by the time you get into a relationship in your 20s and your 30s, you just basically make a mistake after mistake. And there's one more thing I'll say that is why this is actually bad, why we kind of see this really kind of getting like an unfair advantage for women doing this and men getting lashed out. And Sean, we recognize this. I think it's actually at a Jericho event that Sean and I saw this. And Sean, we actually have it on tape where we recorded the tug of war, and all the ladies got on one side and all the guys got on one side. And I've done this game for how many years? I don't know how many years straight. And I've always said, whenever a woman decides to take on a man, 95% of the time, she's going to win that fight. And I said, the men have never won this tug of war game ever. The most they've ever done in my 20 plus years of doing it was Ty playing tug of war. And the boys would start first, and a couple of dads to get on, then be all full on men versus women, pulling as hard as they can. And 3 out of 3 times, the women always won. So Sean actually did something. I remember it was Sean. you watch the tape and you saw, oh, I see what's going on. The women throughout the whole time actually talked to each other and communicated what to do, from the oldest one down to the baby, and they worked together and they dragged the men clear across the line every single time. Now, it doesn't have to be that way, but we as men, we do have to do that job as communicating. We're talking to ourselves right now, but the young dudes outside right now have no clue what to do. And then on top of that, together, those two are pulling this tug of war as opposed to working together. So we have to get more proactive than reactive right now. It's good to kind of analyze it, but they're dead. I hate to say it, that drill, but it's like we have to definitely get more proactive in saying, how can we get these boxes, let people understand these boxes have to be seen, identified, and checked beforehand, so that you can say, you know what, every day of my life is a good day. I love myself. I love what I accomplish. I love who I'm with. I love my family. I respect all these things too much to go off the deep end and lose it, because I have a deep value of myself, of what I've earned for myself. And I'll stop right there. Talk too much. Sorry about that.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. So, to gather some of what you're saying, that couples, before they get into a relationship, they need to have like a counseling. They need to go into counseling on what to expect, right? And to understand the ramifications of if things go left. We hate to go into a relationship or hate to go into a marriage thinking that things can go left, but Murphy laws happen. Things happen unexpectedly. People fall in love and people fall out of love. Some people think that what they have is love, and then when after they go for years in a relationship, they find out that that's not what it is for them.
Well,
You
I
know,
actually don't. I mean, Coach Oto, it's actually, I gotta say, this happened also at another event that Sean and I did, and it's something really simple. Just ask around yourself, ask people around you. We had a brother come there and he did a workshop, and all he did was ask everybody, what does the word love mean to you? And at first, everybody was kind of like, oh, I ain't got time for that. But then I just stood there and watched like a scientific experiment. It was right there in Restoration Plaza, all black people. Everybody's kind of like not want to be a part of it. And then one person spoke, and everybody was ear hustling. And as they ear hustled, the crowd got bigger and bigger, and everybody came together. And I started looking at the faces. So you saw couples like, that's what love means to you. You saw mothers and daughters. That's what love means to you. You saw fathers, sons, and they were all looking like, when they heard everybody say what love, like they were shocked that that's what the word love means to them. So just on that basic principle of love, if you don't know what the word love means to somebody, but yet you saying it, you know, could be fundamentally good or extremely explosive.
well, I think love. I think love. Okay, when you talk about love and the definition of love, it's an evolving definition. You understand what I'm saying? Because I believe that there's more added layers onto it as the more we live and the more we evolve, right? It
Mm-hmm.
begins to mean certain things.
Mm-hmm.
And when you talk about love, it's been an undefinable word for the longest of time. Like people
Mm-hmm.
have a lot of trouble defining that because people
Mm-hmm.
base their feelings and emotions on love. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
people base love on the experience and the traumas that they had in
Mm-hmm.
their in with their
Mm-hmm.
parental guardians, and they take that or whatever they saw. And yes, Sean.
Well, I want to step in on that one because you're talking about love and all that, but well, we all have biblical, spiritual backgrounds,
Mm-hmm.
but there's a difference between love and marriage.
Mm-hmm.
I want to try to make that point. There's a difference between love and marriage. Like if
Mhm.
you look in the Bible, the definition of marriage is actually a financial relationship.
Mm-hmm.
You look at the Hebrew definition of the word marriage in the Bible, it's a
Mm-hmm.
financial arrangement. From the beginning of time, marriage is all about an arrangement.
Mhm.
And it's one thing to be in love, but it's a different thing to be married. So we have to understand that. And I think as men, like you said, we have to go back to teach these young people that marriage is an arrangement. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you can love them at the same time. There's a lot of things going on, factors that go into being married. Like you said, you talk about the understanding what you're giving up, the compromises you're making, and how we're going to work together for the rest of our lives. And I think that's what there's a big issue and a big void there. Is that we kind of mixing, okay, I'm in love, let's get married. No, no,
Yeah.
that's not the way it works.
Hmm.
This is an arrangement that you have to, like you said, a lot of people's getting married for the wrong reasons. Like you said, we have to, and like you said, it goes back to the counseling, and that's what they call marriage an institution,
Hmm.
because it takes a lot of things to build this thing. This ain't just about love. So I don't want to put too much emphasis on love. Yes, love is great.
Hmm.
At the same
Hmm.
time, we have to make, like you said, bring out when we, as men, as we come together. I think we
Hmm.
need to understand that marriage is really it's an arrangement, and we
Hmm.
have to understand, like you said, create what do you understand what you're getting into? Because I think that gets lost a lot.
So if I was to just play like the opposite side right here,
Hmm.
I believe a lot of people get involved in marriage because they foresee a great person inside of the person that they're dealing with, and it's somebody that they could spend their life with. I don't think they really think of all the other extremities that come with that. You know
Exactly.
what I'm saying?
Hmm.
And at the end of the day, when I've known people that spend $70,000 to get married
Hmm.
and end up in debt the whole marriage, and it fails because they financially was dead from the beginning of the relationship because of the big expensive marriage that they had. You
Exactly.
understand?
Hmm.
So you understand finance plays a major part in marriage, but most people
Hmm.
don't think that way. And I've heard a lot of people say it's wrong for thinking that way, because I heard people say that if you get married, things will come or it will happen once you work together. You know what I'm saying? You can overcome all the differences. But a lot of the people that I seen say that, or a lot of things that I seen say that, they go through great turmoil. And a lot of times they even end up hating each other while they're in the marriage. You understand what I'm saying? And so I think that's a great point that you brought out. You know, I would never even though the Bible says so, I never really looked at it that way, because
Hmm.
you know what I'm saying, I always believe like if you love the person you with, you can always overcome everything. That's supposed to be the strongest force, right? But there's a lot of things that happen in the interim that I
Hmm.
guess trumps that idea. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Okay. So, you know, I guess these are things that we have to look at. We have one more person in the forum, Neil Berry. Would you like to say something?
How you got brothers doing? I'm glad you invited me. I haven't been on conversation in a long time with a lot of men. But yeah, no, it's just been great. I'm glad to be listening.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. So again, like when we look at it, we have a tragic situation. I think we had a gentleman who entered into a relationship who had serious aggression problems, and people that was in the relationship with him who triggered his relationship problems or triggered his trauma, right? That caused him to go off the edge. Okay. Now, what I'm saying is that these things do happen, but there has to be something that is able to logically bring you back or prevent you from going too far. You understand what I'm saying? Because the ramifications of what he did is still being lived by those two children that they left there today. Right. And there's not much that somebody can say that console those kids at the moment when they have to, not only that, they have to live with what their father did through their whole lives. And that also hinders them from having a great relationship if they don't get that problem resolved. So on both sides of the fence, you just created another set of children who are going to go through a cycle of violence in their lives because of what happened to them. So what we want to do is break the cycle and find ways to break the cycle. Self-love, definitely, but my thing is, if you have self-love, a lot of the people that we get into relationships, we wouldn't get into relationships anyway with them because of self-love. So I mean, a lot of these things won't happen anyway, and these are things that we can look on. We getting close. It's 9:30, and we getting close to ending this session. It's been great. I thank everyone for coming out. Now, is there any closing statements that anybody would like to make?
I'm glad we did this start of this meeting, and I hope we continue to do it. And I think it will help a lot of men if we invite more men, and hopefully people begin to talk and let out what needs to be let out.
Okay. Just to let you know, we're doing this every third Thursday of the month for an hour. We're gonna sit down and talk. We're gonna bring up issues. We're gonna bring up issues that's going on with men, and we're gonna talk about things that we see and how do we deal with certain situations. We have some interesting ones that that I looked at that hold on, that we have some interesting ones that we're going to work out at this time, so that we're gonna present to the people. So stay tuned. We're gonna have a lot of interesting discussions, a lot of things that men go through that we have to deal with, especially young men, and how do we deal with these things that's going on. Is there anybody else that would like to say something? Gamon, you have any closing statements?
Nah, not really. I mean, one gentleman, thank you, man. This was amazing. I appreciate everybody's feedback and just commentary. Honestly, I concur with Carl. I think it's just so important to have someone to talk to. Like I think Coach Carter was correct. Like it's I think it's imperative to find professionals because I think they can definitely be able to help you um, progress as you're dealing with whatever that you're dealing with. But sometimes there's obviously like a cost and time. Like I know that not everybody could be able to see a therapist, but at the end of the day, find uncles, like friends, like just find find examples, find other men that you can connect with, whether it's your church, whether it's your neighborhood, whatever it is. I just think it's important for just people in general to just get out of your head. You know what I'm saying? I think when I hear um the guy talking, like I feel like I could relate to just having, like, I think we've all like had an idea that sounded good in our head, and then when we said it out loud to someone else, realize, oh, this is crazy. And I think it's just important to just have other people to be able to just express yourself with, because a lot of times you can hear yourself thinking and realize, like, hold on, all right, that sound, I thought that was a good idea, but as I said it and I'm getting feedback on that idea, I realize that's not the move. So, gentlemen, I appreciate y'all. I appreciate that that this forum exists, and that yeah, that I have men that I could definitely be able to reach out to. So appreciate each and every one of y'all.
Sean?
Just want to agree with everything that was said here, and especially what Gamal just said. I appreciate this opportunity, and like I said, I want to work to get like the younger people, younger men in here, so they can listen and learn. Because I think what we can bring to the table can help them a lot. Just by what was said today, I'm gonna get to YouTube and send it to all the kids I know, just so they can listen and learn. And just what was said today, I think was priceless. Was priceless. That let you know that, like I said, each one of us can bring so much to the table, and we can probably help somebody, and we don't even realize it. But we got to keep doing this. Thanks.
Coach Carter?
To my mic back on here. First of all, again, thank you, gentlemen, for inviting me. I would thank Sean for sending me the link. This has been great. I know that myself, I want to do more work in this area because I told you guys I have the ability to. I'm very fortunate to work with men and hear these kind of conversations one on one in the group, and I want to take it to all kinds of different levels. At another point, that I'll break it down to you guys. But one thing I will say, just if anything we could take from this tonight, guys, is remember that I always tell people environment beats willpower any day. You can always take, you can go out there and take on the world by yourself and take on problems by yourself. And then when like Mike Tyson said, when you got a plan and you get punched in that mouth, everybody got plans, you get punched in the mouth. But when you got a team around you that can say, no, hey, what do you think? Is this a good idea? You know, maybe you can't go see a therapist every month, but if we have a group therapist and we all here talking about things, you can get at least an ounce of, you know what? Wow, I was just thinking about that. So the right environment that we're creating right now for young, black men, is particularly is serious. It helps. It can definitely stop the pattern in so many ways. So I like the fact that we're even taking the initiative to create the environment. And from there, who knows how many ideas, like Sean said with YouTube, just to bring a professional help in and also continue to connect. All that makes a lot of sense. And I have ideas as well. We can always continue to build. Any idea can pop at any time that can actually save a life. And that's the nature of being proactive in a proactive environment. People will feel, you know what, I'm not lost. It's help right here. Look at it. It's all around you. So you don't have to feel like that guy did. Everything's taken from me. I'm lost. I actually have something, someone, a voice, a whisper that was there for me. So whatever we're doing is great, and we got to keep it going.
All right. So one thing that I took from it is that whatever you're going through, someone else is going through. You understand? And that's the major thing. And so it doesn't have to end. There's always solutions to the problems that you're in. And that's what I want. And one thing that was brought up was self-love today, and also even pre-counseling before marriage, which is very important. Figure out your financials. To live on love is just not enough. You got to understand that there's a financial part to it. I even the girl was saying the other day, you got to have good credit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I never even thought about that for man, but they even considering you have to have good credit in order to be in a marriage. You know what I'm
Can't
saying?
get no house. Right.
And you need good relationship credit too. We
Yeah.
gotta teach our kids. They know if you see somebody that came out of a whole bad situations, that ain't for you.
Well, and that's the thing, like I said, there's a whole nother subject, but fathers is very plays a major part in that, because I was telling the mother the other day, a father should always take out his daughter for Valentine's Day and buy a chocolate, sit her down, take her a nice place to eat, because he has to show her, if I treat you like this, the person that comes into your life should treat you even better. You understand what I'm saying? That's why the relationship with the father is very important, because he teaches her what a man should be and how a man should act. A lot of us are in relationship with beta males instead of alpha males, and that's what's creating the problem. Now that's a whole nother story. Now, again, just to close on, we'll be here every third Thursday of the month around 7 o'clock. And we send out, if you would like to be part of this live and you would like to be sitting down and talk, you could send us a link on Facebook or send us a message on Facebook on our Jericho Road account. And we definitely will send you a link and like to have you in. Or if you have any topics that you want to talk about, as far as questions about what's going on in relationships and how men should deal with it, please don't hesitate to reach out to us and talk to us. This was supposed to be a private forum. We decided to open it up because of COVID, and also because we think the word needs to get out, because we have a lost and dying world. A lot of men are ending up in this tragic dilemma where they feel that murder is the only way out of a bad relationship, and that's not the way. A lot of them relationships you shouldn't have even been in the first place, or you couldn't handle it. A lot of times I feel to it like there's certain people too young to be in certain type of relationships. It takes a mature person to deal with a lot of mature situations. And if you have never been in it, so a lot of times we overreact to a situation instead of just acting to the situation. And with that being said, we're going to close out today. I thank everybody for being here. I thank everybody for when I saw on our Facebook Live looking. This is our first segment. And please don't hesitate to reach out if you want to talk something or if you have any questions. We're here. Remember, this is not a teaching forum. This is just a helping forum where men get to express their thoughts about things that's going on, and they get to say how they feel, and we can share without being judged, right? So this is a non-judgmental area. This is nowhere we don't judge each other, but we love each other for the ideals that we have and we share. And maybe sharing will help to correct some of the ways of our thinking and help us to be better people. Remember, self-improvement is the best improvement. All right. On that note, thank you. Have a great day, everyone.